The cost of living is going up. It is driving people up the wall. You bought some items at a certain price yesterday, but today the prices have changed. In fact, I did a video a while back of a basket of goods that I bought for a week for my family. And for the same amount of goods, I have to pay 10%, almost 20% more for the same value of goods this year. The cost of living is going up. And the people who are feeling the most pressure are people who have been living at the level of their income or even outliving their own income. People who are living on the edge of their salaries. That is, all they earn is all they spend, or they even have to take advanced debt to be able to meet their expenses. So those are the people who are suffering a lot now. And these are the people I always talk about. The people who are at the brink of poverty. If you are feeling the pinch when the prices of foodstuffs are going up, there is a problem. If you are feeling the pinch when the prices of electricity are going up, there is a problem, because these things, even though you should take note that they are going up, it should not drive you or make you think double time or think triple time. The things that should be concerning if you are living at the right percentage of spending and investing are the people who are worried that the inflation rate is going up and they should be making a percentage gain that is higher than the prevailing inflation rate. Those are the concerns that should be worrying you, not that the food has gone up by this percentage, because when you think about it, food should not be a big percent of what you eat. Then electricity should also not, it should make, you should think about it, but it should not give you sleepless nights. If it is giving you sleepless nights, then there is a problem. Now here's the other underlying issue. All other things are going up. Because remember, inflation is also affecting your landlord. So your landlord is affected by the higher cost of living. And if the lifestyle was a certain level, now the costs have gone up, they now start demanding more rent from you. Again, now this is where the problem goes. The people who are employing you may have their costs of operations going up. One, the electricity is going up because the fuel cost is going up, the dollar rate is going up, this and this is happening, so their costs are going up. So they are not willing to give you a salary increase. So even forget about the salary increase. The other thing is they're even thinking about cutting some costs when the adversity is going on. So when they're thinking about cutting some costs, of course, you're not going to earn a little bit more money, and they're going to be even more conscious. So they'll not add you any salary at this time. So you're not gaining any more, and the costs for everyone are going up. Your landlord is now having more costs to contend with. Therefore, what is the source of income? You and renting. So what do? They tell you that now you have to increase your rent by this and this percentage, sometimes even above the prevailing inflation rate. So everyone is being affected by inflation left, right, and center. I had complaints of parents whose kids were going to school, especially the high-cost schools in Kenya that use a British curriculum or international curriculums. They are going to school in September, and you start hearing parents complaining now that the costs have gone up by 10% or more higher in September this year. When the kids are starting the new academic year, the costs have gone up. In fact, some of them are even ashamed of passing this cost directly to old parents. So they are giving this cost to the new parents. You are in the same class with somebody, but they are paying slightly more expenses in terms of school fees. How does that happen? Does it make sense? Because the costs have gone up and they are ashamed to add these costs to you as a parent. My desire when I talk and I have this channel is to help you not teeter at the edge of poverty because inflation has gone up by a certain percentage. The other thing that is affecting people is interest rates, especially interest rates that are not fixed, are going up at this time. They are going up. So here is the problem. When the interest rates go up and you have a big loan, for example, a mortgage or a short-term loan on a car, especially a big luxury car, then when your interest goes up from say by say 2%, then you end up seeing that these costs are actually becoming significant. And that is why I always tell people, if it is not good debt, it does not make sense. The most neutral sense of debt you can be able to get is, say, a mortgage, and if the rate is reasonable. But otherwise, if you take a big loan for a big luxury car, it makes no sense. And when the rubber meets the road, when the inflation starts trickling down, the first thing that you will now see as a bothersome expenditure is any expense that you pay that you don't necessarily have to pay for. That 4x4 car that you bought because everyone who is a finance manager, everyone who is a manager in this organization has a 4-wheel drive. The reason you bought yours, it starts hitting the pocket. When the cost of fuel goes up and the amount of fuel that your car is consuming vis-a-vis your previous car that you had, your small Kadudu car was consuming, then the chicken starts roasting home. You realize that your finances are not in good shape. In fact, I would tell most people at this time, when the inflation rate is going up is when you know whether your financials are good. It is the best indicator of your financial capacity. It is the best indicator of your employability, because people who lose jobs when the financial crisis is going on are people whose skills can be easily replaced, are people whose skills can be replaced by people who will ask for less money, are people whose skills are not too necessary for the operations of the organization, and when it comes to shove, they are the people who will be let go because the services are not detrimental to the work of the organization. It is also good to note that the people who lose jobs are people who are not as productive as they would desire. How do you contribute to the bottom line of the organization? So, and this is where the people who do not contribute as much to the bottom line of the organization are let go. So, when you look at this situation, you should be able to inform your decision even career-wise. Inflation time. It is not always a time of doom and gloom, but it is a time to reflect and see what can I be able to do to be able to increase value. And I want to talk about the things that you need to do during this time of high inflation. The first thing you need to do if you're going to safeguard your expenses at this time is avoid luxury goods. Avoid goods that you can be able to get cheaper alternatives for. If it is just a shoe, then you don't need to buy a brand that is a big brand of shoes. You can buy a practical shoe that is usable and it is friendly for your pocket. You do not need to buy luxury goods at this time when you are struggling with what you have and how much you can be able to meet at the end of the month. Then you should not be thinking about luxury goods. This is not the time to upgrade your phones. Get the latest iPhones, get the latest this and that, get the latest this and that. Just because it's a promotion, it doesn't mean that you need it. It just means that maybe they are selling at a cheaper price because everyone is struggling with inflation and people are not buying the things that they are pushing down your throat. So it is not the time to pay for luxury goods. And the other thing is delay payments as much as possible. I always hear people say that I got this lump sum amount of money, so they pay rent for a whole year. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's not good at times of inflation, because when times of inflation are going up, the later you can pay for something, the more in terms of value you are giving. If you give somebody 10,000 today, it is not going to be the same value in the next year. So when you pay things in advance when you necessarily don't have to, you are losing out on value. You're losing out on value. You'd rather invest the money now and pay them in the future when you have gotten some gains and you have been able to reduce on inflation. You paying rent a year in advance, 2 years in advance, just because you have the money, or you paying your loan in advance during this time of high inflation, means that you are helping your funder or the person who gave you the loan to not be affected by inflation, but you yourself are paying for the inflation. So stop paying for things early in advance. Then the other thing you need to do is prioritize cash flow. Because remember when I told you when I began that the things that I was buying at a certain price have now increased by 10 to 20% more for the same basket of foodstuffs that I am using in my house. So if the cost was 6,000 shillings for foodstuffs, now it is 8,000 plus. Why? Inflation. So what do you do at this time? Prioritize anything that is bringing money in your pocket. And that is why I always talk about cash flow generating investments. So anything that is bringing money to your pocket, prioritize now. Any money that you have that has been lying dormant in a bank account under your mattress, achieving nothing, is money that is losing value this time of high inflation. So put it somewhere, and especially somewhere where the rate of gain is higher than the rate of inflation, because at most you will still retain value on your money. Cash flow, things that are bringing money in your pocket. This is not the time to do elephant projects, building big, fancy palatial homes. Build a practical home, and later on you can be able to upgrade it. There is a certain fallacy that affects most Kenyans and most Africans, and most people around the world, that the house that you own first, the house that you build first, has to be the only house that you have. It has to be great. So they say go big or go home. But now this time of inflation, it's not the time to put money lying in a house that is not bringing any cash flow. So cash flow is important, because remember, if companies are going to let go of staff, if businesses are not going to be generating as much, if people are not going to be buying things as much as possible, you want money coming to your pocket instead of leaving your pocket. The other thing you need to do is sell off non-cash assets. If you are in a time where you need cash flow, anything that is not generating cash, you need to get rid of it, or find a way of making it cash generating. You have this piece of land that you bought, 10 acres, 5 acres, it is not bringing money in your pocket. So what do? You either start farming on it, you either plant trees, something that is green, gaining value on this property. As is, it is just an asset in your stock portfolio, in your asset schedule, but it is not something that is bringing value. Think about something that will add value, as opposed to any imaginary gains that you may think are going to come when you sell this land in the future period. So how much is being generated now? How much are you building? Don't even have to cash it out now, but when you need to, you can actually be able to cash out. Let me give you an example. Somebody had acquired a land a long time ago from inheritance, land that was laying dormant, nothing was happening. So somebody told them, instead of leaving this land to just stay like that, why don't you plant avocados? And they were a little hesitant, but because the county government was giving out free Hass avocado seedlings, he was like, well, it is free, it is here, I might as well plant them. So he got 30 of them and added another 30, bought another 30. So 60 of them, and planted them and forgot about them. Living in Nairobi, enjoying life in Nairobi, and just forgot about it. But there are plants that have already been put on the ground. And of course, there were other relatives around and the plants were there. So they were now, after years and years, now they are broke, but they never knew where they could be able to get money. Then they receive this call. Somebody says, I'm willing to buy your avocados for 24,000 shillings for 30 of these trees. Just think about it. You were sleeping, you were thinking you don't have money, then somebody calls you. I want to give you 30,000 for the avocados that you have. You even forgot you had avocados. So this land that was dying, laying dormant, is now generating some value and some money in your pocket that you never thought of. It is land that you never used, it is land you never thought about, and it is land that has given you 30,000 just because you put in a few things that are generating some value. This is what I'm talking about. So any non-cash flow generating items, think about how they can be able to produce value, and value that can be equated into cash without selling the same asset. So think about that. The other thing that you need to do is get rid of subscriptions you don't need. There's a certain subscription I got rid the other day, a music subscription, of a certain online music subscription. I forget the name. So I used to use this subscription as I was traveling a long distance. I could listen to music without adverts, without skipping adverts, without all these things, because the alternatives where I pay for a lot of internet, I maybe receive videos, and sometimes I would even listen to ebooks, sometimes I would listen to podcasts, sometimes I would listen to things while I'm driving long distances. But I stopped driving long distances because my circumstances in life changed. So I don't drive as much, but I was still paying for this subscription around 800, and now with the inflation rates around 1,000 Kenya shillings every month. So 1,000 shillings was coming out of my pocket every month. But because I never thought about it, it was a dormant account that didn't have a lot of use. Just had some cash, but that's it. I looked the other day and I realized the only transactions that were there for months was this subscription that was deducting money from my pocket. But I never used this subscription. So it was taking money out of my pocket. Most of us have subscriptions that we don't use. You have some subscription for TV. You don't even have time for TV. You have some subscriptions for Netflix and all these movie platforms, streaming platforms, but you only use probably one. So pick one, leave the rest, throw them away. Why do you need subscriptions for word processing documents while you write one letter a month in your personal computer? Look for personal word processing applications online and use it for that one letter that you do every other month. Otherwise, stop using these applications, and especially when you are paying subscriptions for this. So every subscription that is unnecessary, get rid of it, because it is going to reduce the money that you otherwise have for your own survival and for generating investments that are going to bring cash flow instead of taking cash flow away from you. Then the other need you need to go and do is downgrade and downscale. There is no shame in acknowledging that things are thick, my friend. This big palatial home, I cannot maintain it. The bills from this home are too big. I have to have 2 house helps. I have to have additional help to clean this house, to maintain this house. I have to mow the gardens. I have to do all these things. Acknowledge this is a fact. If you live in a fancy neighborhood, even your costs of foodstuff have gone up, and even have gone up by a higher percentage than in the slums, because in the slums there is things are affected by, if you increase something by even a shilling, you lose a lot of customers because people are more price sensitive than the people who have made it in life. So your local shop will most likely add even a higher percentage and say it is inflation because they think you are a little bit richer and less sensitive of price changes. So get rid of this home that you are paying massive rents. In fact, I did a survey the other day on a video I've done already of Kenyans paying up to 43% of their income in rent. 43% of your money is going in rent. And remember, the bigger the rent, the bigger the other expenses like I've talked about. So if this is your life, downgrade, downscale, get rid of things. Don't have so many things in your house that you do not necessarily need. You're one single person. You don't even have a family. Why do you need a 4-bedroom house? Think about these things. Downgrade, downscale, reduce your expenses during this time especially. The other thing that you need to do is make food from scratch. Stop buying food in fact, the people who eat mostly out and in fast food joints and eat less at home are likely to incur up to 3 times more in food bills. If you eat out and if you buy a lot of processed things and bring home and you cook less in the house, your bills will be 3 times the average person who cooks at home, who carries food to eat lunch at work from home. You are going to incur 3 times more. So stop incurring 3 times more, because it is a time when you need to be tightening your belt, not doing all out and going all out and spending so much money. We are not even talking about tips that you give to where you eat. We are just talking about the value in terms of things that you are paying in terms of food. So during times of inflation, when the rubber meets the road, you need to tighten your belt. You need to make changes in your life, and you need to ensure that you make decisions that are going to keep money in your pocket or keep money from flowing out of your pocket unnecessarily, and think about things that are going to be bringing money in your pocket. Because remember, you could lose a job, you could be unable to pay for your next expenses, you could be kicked out by your landlord. You could be, so many things can happen during this time, and the more security you have in terms of cash coming into your pocket or staying in your pocket, the better you are. Thank you and enjoy your